Across Australia, domestic violence support services have been reporting an increase in people seeking help during coronavirus lockdowns. While restrictions are lifting in most places, advocates say many of those who try to leave their abuser now risk further violence. One organisation helping women and families is Gold Coast charity Rise Up, and CEO Nicole Edwards joins us now. Good morning, Nicole. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast.
Hi, good morning, Lisa. How are you doing today?
We are good, Hey, Nicole, what have you noticed over the last few months of the numbers of people who've been seeking help from your organisation?
So, Lisa, we work as an add value actually to support the services, the frontline crisis services. And what we've seen is an increase of 26% of services reaching out to us because obviously they've seen a massive spike in numbers of women and families fleeing domestic and family violence. And at the moment, we have the highest number, if you like, of women who are currently in transitional accommodation in crisis, motels waiting for spaces in refuges across Australia as a result of the pandemic.
And so you offer support to those other groups. What are you doing? What are the programs that Rise Up does?
Sure, Lisa. So we're this dynamic community-driven organisation where we're connecting the broader community with the issue of domestic and family violence. So what we do is one of our busiest programs is our Homes program, where we connect our massive team of volunteers and we go in and create and furnish homes for families who are leaving a violent situation behind. So for many of these families, they go into hiding, if you like, into refuge, and they stay in refuge for up to 12 weeks. What happens next is they exit out and they go into completely empty accommodation. So we step in that really pivotal point where the family, mum decides that maybe it's best if she goes back to the place of violence due to, children sleeping on the floor or not having a bed or blankets to keep them warm. So we go in without ever meeting the families and we create these beautiful spaces and really reinstating, self-worth and dignity. She deserves to be surrounded by beautiful comforts. And on a broader macro scale, Lisa, it's really driving attention to the issue. You might have a couch that you could pass on to, a family impacted by domestic and family violence, and and then you can go onto social media and see that. So I think for us to see long-term systemic change, this is, it's going to come through community. So, we're a really incredible add value to the frontline services who desperately rely on our support.
And most of your support is being run by volunteers, is that right?
Absolutely, Lisa. So we're just on the cusp of launching into Melbourne. Actually, we've got a couple of homes happening in Sydney actually today. So we're right throughout Queensland. We're into New South Wales, and we're just about to launch into Melbourne. The service that we provide is absolutely individual, and it's desperately needed for these very, very vulnerable and yet very courageous families. We have a team at the moment of about 420 volunteers. The more volunteers we have, Lisa, the more that we can help these families. We're just skimming the very surface of supporting and meeting the demands. And incredibly, throughout the lockdown of the pandemic, what we did see was the most enormous amount of volunteers who joined Rise Up. And I always feel that's very encouraging and says a lot about the broader community. We're all struggling with various things, social isolation and job loss and financial strain. But, there's a part of the Australian spirit which says, there's always a lot of people who are worse off than ourselves. So in May alone, we, onboarded 50 volunteers, which was incredible.
Good luck with it all. Nicole Edwards from Rise Up. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Bye. Have a nice day.
Thanks. And if this story has raised any issues for you, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault, Domestic and Family Violence Counselling Service on 1800 RESPECT, which is 1800 737 732.